Yes, EFD squad, and welcome back to another Top 10. Today we're doing 10 managers you probably should have heard of, but haven't. Yes, a mouthful. 10. Willie Maley. Our generation of football fans have come to accept that, rightly or wrongly, a manager's shelf life at a top club rarely extends beyond 3 years now, no matter their prior achievements. And whilst Ferguson's 26 years is often seen as the benchmark for longevity, we've uncovered a manager who lasted a further 17 years at the helm. It's Celtic FC's first ever manager, Willie Maley. Maley left school at 13 to work in a printer's before moving into accountancy, and then being made Celtic's first ever manager by founder brother Walfred at the tender age of 29. Julian Nagelsmann, eat your heart out. Celtic might be a very big fish in a small pond now, but Scotland was the birthplace of what we regard as the modern game, and Maley and his side set the standard from the off, winning 16 league titles and 27 cup competitions. Whew. Like Ferguson, Maley's great strength was the ability to regenerate his sides. He is well regarded for having built 3 great teams, the latter of which included Jimmy McGorry, the club's all-time top goal scorer, with 395 goals in 378 games for the Hoops. Despite this success, Maley was a distant, almost spectral figure when it came to his exchanges with the first team. Legend has it he didn't even tell his players if they'd been picked or dropped. They had to read it in the paper. Still, his record of 62 games unbeaten remains a British record, so it's hard to argue with his methods. 9. Bela Guttman. Perhaps better known for placing a curse on Benfica, Bela Guttman was a man with strong principles, an iron will and a penchant for attacking football. Guttman's insistence of having total control over his club's affairs often led to friction with the board, like at AC Milan, where he was sacked 19 games into the season despite sitting top. Disgruntled, Guttman went off to manage Sao Paulo before an offer arose from Porto, whose generous wage package proved to be money well spent as the Hungarian guided them to a title. Unfortunately for the Dragons, their rivals Benfica would offer Guttman a more lucrative contract offer shortly after, and the Hungarian was on his way to Lisbon, ushering in huge changes. He made 20 senior players redundant and promoted a large majority of the players from the youth team. And these radical changes worked, as he went on to win 2 consecutive European titles and 2 consecutive league titles. The fearless, attacking football he instilled, embodied by his 4-2-4 formation, was central to the Eagles' success. 8. Gusztáv Sebes. In the 1950s, the Hungarian national team, made up of superstars like Ferenc Puskás and Sándor Kocsis, were a force of nature, winning 42 games, drawing 7 and losing just the once. That side became known as the Mighty Magyars and was led by the revolutionary Gusztáv Sebes, one of the Hungarian triumvirate, along with Guttman, known for pioneering the 4-2-4. Under his leadership, Hungary developed a reputation for free-flowing, attacking football, winning Olympic gold in 1952, scoring an absurd 22 goals in just 6 games along the way. But the Mighty Magyars weren't done there, thrashing Sebes' old side Billancourt 18-1 in a warm-up game before travelling to England for a fixture that would later become known as the match of the century. The Hungarian masterminded a 6-3 hammering at Wembley, a performance of such brilliance that English fans were left dumbstruck and the FA so furious they demanded a rematch. Wrong move. But it didn't get much better in the reverse leg, as this time Sebes took no prisoners and led Hungary to a 7-1 win on home soil. 7. Vittorio Pozzo. A figure of controversy thanks to the fascist salutes his Italian squad persisted with during the 1938 World Cup, Vittorio Pozzo was nonetheless a visionary manager who helped guide the Azzurri to 2 consecutive World Cup wins. Retiring from professional football at just 25, Pozzo remained part of the Italian Football Federation, helping to reform the league and briefly standing in as coach before he cut his time short to spend time with his dying wife. 5 years later, however, he was back in the Italian dugout, and this time he stayed in his role for nearly 20 years, developing a tactic which became known as Metodo. Pozzo's setup was a combination of the common 2-3-5 and Herbert Chapman's WM formation, and it worked to great effect, winning the 1934 and the 1938 World Cups with Olympic gold in between. Pozzo retired with a record of 64 wins, 17 draws and 16 losses in 97 games, laying the foundations for the Azores' future successes. 6. Albert Batteux. French viewers may have heard of Batteux, but his name certainly isn't prominent across the continent, which is pas bon, considering he's the most successful manager in Ligue 1 history. As a player, Batteux spent his entire career at Stade de Reims, winning a single league title and Coupe de France, but found a lot more success in the dugout. The one-club man took over Reims as soon as he hung up his boots, winning 5 league titles and losing to Real Madrid twice in the European Cup final. Whilst at Reims, he was also managing the French national team too, getting a 3rd place finish with the aid of Just Fontaine before heading to Saint Etienne via Grenoble. Batteux won 4 more league titles with Les Verts before eventually fizzling out at Nice and Marseille. His career may not have ended in glory, but his domestic record is still yet to be toppled. 5. Ernst Happel. The Netherlands might not be a superpower in football today, but in 1978 they were just 30 minutes from glory, losing the World Cup to Argentina in extra time with a team led by the legend that was Ernst Happel. One of just 5 managers to win the European Cup with 2 different clubs, the Austrian coach proudly sits alongside legends like Carlo Ancelotti, Omar Hitzfeld, Jupp Heynckes and Jose Mourinho. He also has a packed domestic trophy cabinet, winning league titles in Germany, Austria, Belgium and the historically super competitive Eredivisie. But it was on the international stage that Happel really sparkled, leading his team of Dutch wonders, Neeskens, Rep and Krol in extra time to the World Cup final, before eventually falling just short, despite being favourites to lift the trophy. To this day, he is known across Austria as the country's greatest ever coach, so much so, the Austrian FA even renamed the national stadium in his honour, the Ernst Happel Stadion. 4. Miguel Muñoz. When old slaphead Zinedine Zidane became Los Blancos manager, he was seen as Real's answer to Pep Guardiola, a former star who would coach the club to glory. But neither the Frenchman nor the Catalan can compare records with Miguel Muñoz, a Madrid native who played and coached Real for 26 years. A diminutive midfielder, Muñoz was only 5'5" tall, but almost as broad, a leader of men who scored Real's first ever goal in the European Cup, winning the prestigious trophy 3 times and La Liga 4 times. After retirement, Muñoz had a brief spell coaching the reserves, eventually earning a shot at the big time, but under tough circumstances. Real's golden generation was ageing and Muñoz needed new blood, though he was pained to do so as it meant dropping his old mate Alfredo Di Stefano, and he actually handed in his resignation, unable to axe his friend from the starting lineup. That's loyalty for you. The resignation was rejected and Muñoz revamped the side, going on to win the league an incredible 9 times in 14 years, lifting the European Cup twice more. That makes the Spaniard the most successful Real manager ever, and he remains their longest serving coach to this day, dying in 1990. 3. Udo Lattek. With 13 major trophies in Germany alone, Lattek is not only one of the most successful managers in the history of the game, but is the only manager in the Bundesliga to win 8 championships. Spending over 9 seasons in Bavaria, Lattek also remains one of just 2 managers to have won all 3 major European titles, along with Giovanni Trapattoni. Not bad company to keep, is it? And is the only coach in history to have done so with 3 different sides. What a guy. Lattek originally took charge of Bayern in 1970 after a recommendation from the legendary Franz Beckenbauer, but with little to no managerial experience, this was an extremely controversial appointment. Nevertheless, Lattek quickly embarrassed his naysayers, winning 3 back-to-back championships. But his rise to the top didn't stop there, my friends, oh no. He reached the pinnacle of club football, inspiring the Bavarians to become Germany's first winners of the European Cup. With further spells at Mönchengladbach, Dortmund, Barcelona and Schalke, Lattek is credited with pioneering the German game, and even went back to Dortmund in 2000 for a 5-game spell, leading the team clear of relegation. 2. Nereo Rocco. The master of Catenaccio, Nereo Rocco is Milan's longest ever serving manager and was the man who kick-started one of the Rossonieri's most successful periods. He was the first manager to take the European Cup back to Italy, and his conquering of Europe didn't end there. Described by Gianni Brera as always real and always authentic, Rocco was a disciplinarian on the pitch, much like Helenio Herrera was, but off the pitch, he couldn't have been any more different than his contemporary, as Rocco was constantly seen in restaurants and bars, talking it up to journalists all day. The Trieste-born coach won the league in his first season and the European Cup in his second, beating a Benfica side led by the legendary Eusebio 2-1. A short stint in Torino followed before the master returned to the San Siro to win another league title and another European Cup. 1. Aimé Jacquet. A hugely successful player, most notably at St Etienne, Jacquet won 5 League One titles as well as 2 Coupe de France's as a defensive midfielder. But this success only gained further momentum following his retirement, as the Frenchman went on to win 3 more league titles as a manager, as well as the World Cup. Taking the helm at Bordeaux in 1980, Jacquet had the luxury of 2 players that would form the quart magique in France's triumphant 1984 Euro squad in Jean Tigana and Alain Giresse, with Bernard Lecomte completing the club's deadly attacking trident. France came a-calling after the 94 World Cup. Jacquet led Les Bleus to the semis of Euro 96 after boldly dropping Cantona, Ginola and Popin. However, just before the next World Cup, Jacquet's philosophy was deemed too defensive, with many French fans forlorn, tongue twister, at this negative style. Once his team took to the pitch though, his countrymen need not have worried, as they played with style and panache. Oh, c'est magnifique. And Jacquet put Zidane in a free role without destabilising the team by playing Karembeu, Deschamps and Petit in behind him. And Zizou repaid this faith with aplomb by scoring 2 goals in the final, both from set pieces may we add, which Jacquet pinpointed as Brazil's weakness before the game. So guys, that was 10 managers you may not have heard of, but probably should have. Have we missed anyone out? Let us know as always in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, stick this week's Stat Wars on where I smash Pat to pieces. And as always guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Whee!